Hi, my name is Sam Daneman, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the true cost of recycling. So we all agree that recycling is better than landfilling, right? But is that always true? To think about this, let's talk about the difference between a resource and garbage. A resource means that someone will pay you for that product, whereas garbage means that you pay for someone to take it away from you. Think about the difference between the 5 cents you get for bringing in a glass bottle versus the amount you pay for your curbside pickup. Recycling a resource saves resources, whereas recycling garbage just uses resources. For the purpose of this discussion, we'll look into 4 different materials. Plastic, specifically the high-density polyethylene, just like the kind you find in the milk jugs in your refrigerator. Paper, office paper, like the kind you use in a printer or a copy machine. Glass for glass jars and glass bottles. And an aluminum made for aluminum cans. Our systems thinking lessons have taught us that because we're only human, we can't consider all of the different options at once. We're limited by our own brains. So for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to look at 2 major options for an end-of-use product: recycling and landfills, even though other things like composting and combustion are options. Other factors we do need to consider, though, are transportation and mass. The mass of the material affects how much energy is required for the transportation. Also, the forest reduction. Think about paper. It comes from trees. Specialized trucks and facilities required for recycling. The sorting that happens in those facilities, separating out metals and plastics and paper. And the distance to landfills versus the distance to recycling centers. There tend to be more landfills closer than the recycling centers that are available. Critics of recycling would argue that the emissions that required for the trucks to pick up specialized recyclables kind of outweighs the benefits of recycling itself. But really, there's one main factor that everyone will consider, and that's the cost. So let's start with plastic, again, the high-density polyethylene. Currently, that milk jug in your refrigerator is made of about 10% recycled materials. The EPA estimates that a little over 5 million short tons are generated a year, and 11% of that is recycled. Paper, on the other hand, is only made of about 4% recycled materials. Something interesting to consider when looking at paper is forest reduction, but this kind of paper tends to be made from trees grown in commercial tree farms, which balance that out. Glass is a very interesting example because it probably doesn't make the most sense to be recycled. Currently, about 23% of your glass bottle is made from recycled materials. Traditionally, glass is made out of sand, which is a very inexpensive raw material. However, it ends up being very heavy, which means that there's a lot of energy required to transport it. As previously mentioned, landfills tend to be a little bit closer than recycling centers, so just the transportation difference can make landfills a better option. Also, glass can't be recycled indefinitely. When it's milled down into mullet to be made into new bottles, it turns a blackish color, and chemical additives are required to return it to that pretty clear colored state. Aluminum. Aluminum is arguably the best material to be recycled. Currently, about 68% of an aluminum can comes from a recycled material. However, creating a can from virgin materials can use up to half the can's volume in gasoline alone. You'll see about a 95% energy reduction when creating a can from a recycled material versus the virgin materials. And this is because the aluminum smelting process requires so much energy. So, if recycling isn't always the best option financially, why do we do it? The main thing is to get people into the habit of recycling because it's the right thing to do. We can't always count on everyone to do their own analysis and weigh all of the options with every product they buy. So it's better to get into the habit of recycling for the things like aluminum where it really does matter. So in summary, recycling isn't always the best option, but reducing and reusing outweigh it. So always reduce, reuse, and then recycle. Thank you.